The Navy SEAL classroom filled with quiet murmurs, the type that carried grins and secret mockery. Standing up front was someone nobody saw coming. Small framed glasses resting on her face, wearing neat khakis rather than combat gear. She seemed more like a college teacher than someone capable of training America's fiercest warriors. "Nice-looking professor," one trainee whispered. Someone else chimed in. "You lost, ma'am?" Even their group's top guy, a towering recruit named Merrick Davenport, crossed his arms with a sneer. "We're here to battle, not listen to lectures about thinking." They had absolutely no clue. In just a few weeks, those very same soldiers would be left speechless. They'd notice the marks covering her arms. They'd witness her take down their strongest fighter in mere moments, and they'd stand completely still when their commanding officer shared what really happened. This teacher wasn't simply someone who studied books. She was a combat veteran with a nickname spoken about on Warzone. Before we continue, drop a comment telling us where you're joining us from right now. Coronado's Naval Special Warfare Training Command carried the smell of hard work and ocean air. Trainees dragged themselves into the room after yet another punishing training run only to freeze completely. Standing at the front was Dr. Elaine Thorne, petite with reddish-brown hair pulled back neatly, organizing documents on her desk. No military uniform, no battle equipment, just thin-framed glasses and quiet confidence. Puzzled looks spread across the group. Then their training leader announced the fresh requirement: 4 hours every week studying unconventional combat thinking. The quiet broke into quiet giggles. To soldiers shaped by dirt and struggle, studying sounded like being soft. Davenport, already their unofficial boss, already their toughest member, voiced what everyone thought. "Respectfully, ma'am. Nobody you're fighting cares about your ideas when weapons are going off." Thorne's look stayed on him, steady and focused. "Soldier Davenport, demonstrate your building entry method." He performed with rehearsed skill. Flawless textbook form. She gave a slight nod. "Textbook for sure. Now let me reveal the 7 deadly mistakes in what you just did." For 10 solid minutes, she picked apart everything he'd done with razor-sharp detail, highlighting angles, exposed areas, and weak points no training guide ever covered. The trainees' grins disappeared. Davenport tightened his jaw, then her sleeves shifted, showing a rough scar circling her wrist. She fixed it fast, but one soldier, Calloway, caught it. Ideas weren't her only baggage. Class after class, Thorne pushed them not with physical drills or running, but with understanding their mental mistakes. She discussed thinking errors, mental shortcuts, and the deadly wrong moves that happened when fighters trusted only their physical power. Davenport became impatient. "We've got to be tougher, quicker, more forceful. That's what saves our lives." Her response came like a blade wrapped in quiet speech. "The toughest fighter I ever worked with died because he wouldn't change his ways." The word "worked" made the entire room go silent. She talked like she'd been right there. Some soldiers paid closer attention. Others looked away, dismissive. Davenport boiled inside. The breaking moment arrived when she brought in mental confusion drills, special equipment that threw off even the top performers, flashing lights, strange noises, optical tricks. In just minutes, SEAL trainees who took pride in being strong fumbled around like beginners. "This doesn't prepare us for anything," Davenport complained loud enough for everyone to catch. Thorne's expression turned hard. Ramadi 2012, 3 fighters killed. Enemy forces used exactly these methods. Physical power didn't help them. Preparation like this would have made the difference. Silence filled the space again. By week 3, anger grew thick. Someone sketched a mean drawing of her on the board. A weak teacher being rescued by actual soldiers. Thorne wiped it clean without showing any reaction. But Calloway, observant and thinking deeply, came up to her before the session started. "Ma'am, I need to say sorry. Not all of us think this is pointless. Some of us understand its importance, but Davenport controls everyone." She gave a slight smile. "Not for much longer." That session she split everyone into groups for confusion training. What happened was embarrassing. Even Davenport's group stumbled backward in failure. She brought them together. "This exercise was built to defeat you. Your bodies are powerful, but your thinking is untrained. That's about to shift." Davenport lost his temper. This is throwing away our time. Thorne's stare turned to steel behind those glasses. In Kandahar, I saw someone die because he believed just like you do. His strength couldn't protect him. His thinking could've. The room turned ice cold. She'd said saw, and Davenport's confidence started breaking apart. 3 weeks into the training, the classroom felt like a war zone. Not dirt and gunfire, but pressure and ego. Dr. Elaine Thorne stood facing the board, breaking down Davenport's group's most recent practice mission. Her steady voice sliced deeper than any weapon. Your method was technically right, but dangerously wrong. This entrance design creates a death trap. In Fallujah, that exact move killed 4 fighters. Davenport's controls snapped. With complete respect, ma'am, this isn't knowledge you get from textbooks. These methods were proven in actual battle by genuine operators. Her marker tapped the board. The upper levels in the Alisgari neighborhood form shooting gallery. 7 seconds after breaking through, your whole team would be gone. I'm certain because I witnessed it. Her statement landed like a hammer blow. Too precise? Way too precise? The trainees shifted awkwardly. Calloway's keen observation picked up on how she touched her ribs when discussing chest injuries. A motion too intimate for book learning. Then she explained the warped perceptions during a first combat kill, time dragging, sounds bending, colors becoming bright. Her tone stayed calm and analytical, but held a heaviness no textbook could capture. How could you possibly know what taking someone's life feels like? Davenport challenged, jumping to his feet. The room went completely still. Thorne remained unmoved. Check page 94 in your materials for information about combat psychological stress. Let's move forward. Her choice not to take the bait just made him angrier. When the session finished, trainees left in total quiet, but Davenport remained. His massive frame loomed above her workspace. His words came out low and cutting. I believe it's past time we quit playing games. You're teaching war to soldiers who'll actually be in combat while you've never experienced it. That makes you a danger. Thorne gathered her materials calmly. Your opinion has been heard. No, he said harshly, moving nearer. You're missing the point. These soldiers believe in me. They'll charge into danger following me, not someone like you. Your concepts weaken everything we've created. Her gaze finally rose, solid as rock. Real leadership isn't being the most powerful person present. It's understanding when power isn't the solution. Something in Davenport shattered. In one fast movement, he grabbed her neck and shoved her against the wall. Sharp gasps filled the space. Multiple trainees had stayed near the entrance, now paralyzed in disbelief. This is real combat, Professor, Davenport hissed. This is what our training prepares us for. Danger, aggression, not your theories. For one single moment, she didn't fight back. Her eyes connected with his, ice-cold measuring. Then everything transformed in a flash. Moving faster than anyone could follow, the woman they assumed was just a teacher disappeared. Her movement struck like electricity, shattering his hold, spinning his arm, forcing him down. A terrible crack sounded as his shoulder popped out. In seconds, their most powerful man lay face down on the ground, locked beneath her knee. Complete silence filled the space, broken only by Davenport's rough breathing. The entrance opened. Commander Blackwood walked in. His face showed no surprise whatsoever. Stand down, Major. Those words struck like lightning. Major. Confused whispers moved through the soldiers. Thorne let go of Davenport and stood with controlled precision, fixing her clothing. The academic had vanished. The warrior stood in her place. Commander Blackwood's voice rang with authority. Listen carefully, gentlemen. Let me correctly introduce your teacher. This is Major Elaine Thorne, Naval Special Warfare Development Group, radio name Wraith, 15 years of field operation, Silver Star recipient, Purple Heart recipient, creator of mental warfare methods that changed our entire approach, and the single survivor of Operation Obsidian Shield. The quiet grew into complete amazement. Every soldier in that space had caught rumors of Obsidian Shield, the secret operation where a full SEAL team was destroyed. That one person who made it out became a legend, though nobody had ever seen her face, and there she stood in front of them. Davenport sat in shock, arm dangling uselessly. His ego was shattered. his certainty demolished. The commander's look swept across everyone. You ridiculed the exact methods that protected lives on battlefields worldwide. You rejected the teachings paid for in blood. Major Thorne's injuries were earned in places most of you won't survive. She's teaching you because strength by itself isn't sufficient anymore. Understand that immediately or you won't make it. The soldiers dropped their gazes, shame washing over their expressions. Davenport, previously the most vocal critic, appeared empty inside. Major Thorne fixed her sleeve, her composed manner returning. Everyone's dismissed. The soldiers filed out, quiet and deeply shaken. But Calloway stayed back, looking at her with completely changed understanding. The scars, the experiences, the absolute confidence, suddenly everything clicked into place. Wraith wasn't an instructor from civilian life, she was one of their own. The following morning, the classroom sat empty besides Commander Blackwood. All sessions are stopped for 24 hours, he stated firmly. The men need time to absorb this, and Davenport is facing review. His military career might be finished. Thorne organized her materials. He reacted based on wrong beliefs. Dangerous, yes, but honest. Sometimes suffering is the only instructor. You could have stopped him without causing damage, Blackwood mentioned carefully. True, but he needed to experience the price of his overconfidence. That evening, she located Davenport in the medical area, shoulder wrapped in support. He wouldn't meet her eye. They're removing me from the program, he said quietly. Attacking an instructor, my career is over. She examined him closely. Is that your desire? He stared up, amazed. What I desire is irrelevant. I went too far. It's relevant to me, she replied softly. Because I haven't approved your discharge documents yet. Confusion crossed his expression. Why wouldn't you? I attacked you physically. You absolutely did, she confirmed. Because you believed I was an outsider teaching concepts that might kill your soldiers. Misunderstood, but based in loyalty. That protective drive I value. That's leadership's foundation. The issue wasn't your protection. It was your false beliefs. His voice cracked. So what comes next? That's your choice. You can walk away with your pride whole and your ignorance unchanged. Or you can remain and discover what genuine strength demands, mental alongside physical. Davenport looked at the ground, then returned to her. I was completely wrong about you, about actual combat. I'm ready to learn, she acknowledged with a single nod. Sessions restart at 800 hours. Be on time. The following morning, the classroom environment had completely changed. Every trainee stood at attention, respect burning. Where mockery once existed, even Davenport, arms still supported, stood straight. Take your seats, she instructed simply. Questions poured out from everyone. Is it accurate you were Operation Obsidian Shield's only survivor? Correct. My team got ambushed. 7 fighters lost. I suffered serious injuries but escaped with vital intelligence. Your scars, wrist, side. Kandahar. Taken prisoner. Tortured. Permanent nerve damage. The space went dead silent. Eventually, Davenport lifted his hand. Voice, gentler now. Major, you mentioned the strongest fighter you knew died because he refused to change. Who was that person? She locked eyes with him. Your father, Chief Garrett Davenport. He protected my life twice before giving his own. Stronger than 10 people like me. But he depended on muscle exclusively. When injury removed that advantage, he couldn't adjust. That took everything from him. The atmosphere froze solid. Davenport's face lost all color. My father, he breathed out. Exactly. And that's my reason for being here. Because physical strength alone won't cut it. Changing tactics equals survival. The trainees pressed forward, writing tools moving frantically. The space once filled with suspicion now blazed with deep respect. The academic was history. The warrior had stepped forward, and these soldiers would never view her the same way again. The weeks following were completely unlike anything the trainees had ever known. What started as doubt transformed into focus, then into deep admiration. Where they'd previously mocked, they now pressed forward silently, recording notes while Major Elaine Thorne taught. Her words weren't disconnected lectures anymore. Every scar she shared, Every tactical mistake she examined, every moment of steady conviction, held the burden of real survival. They started viewing her not as someone teaching from books, but as a fighter who'd paid with her own suffering for every principle she shared with them. Davenport, his shoulders strapped and healing, showed the biggest change. The soldier who'd previously rejected her now absorbed everything with fierce concentration, his expression tight as he grasped each concept. No longer the biggest voice against her, he became the first to confess when something confused him, the first to step up for exercises, despite his injury, and the first to agree when she stressed changing over strength. For the rest, this shift meant even more than her identity reveal. If their strongest member could set aside his ego and learn from her, then everyone else could too. Real exercises quickly replaced classroom time. Navigating blindfolded through obstacle paths, simulated wounds during tactical operations, assignments with strict deadlines and surprise complications, missing weapons, broken communication devices, equipment breakdowns. Each time Thorne introduced disorder into their plans, each time she emphasized, physical advantages mean zero if your thinking breaks down when things get uncertain. She prepared them to fight without seeing, to fight while confused, to fight when their bodies had nothing left. Gradually, they quit depending on practiced movements and began thinking like hunters who changed faster than their targets. One evening, Blackwood watched quietly from the rear while Thorne shouted across the training area, "Your main weapon is gone and you've been hit in your strong arm. Enemies closing in from your right side. 2 innocent people depending on you. What's your action?" Trainees worked through responses, some struggling, some creating solutions. Then she pointed to Davenport. His answer came instantly: distraction tactics. Using the landscape, mental pressure, not raw power but smart thinking. She acknowledged with faint acceptance in her expression, "Outstanding. You've understood how to turn perception into a weapon." Blackwood's face relaxed. He recognized what he was watching: complete change. 4 weeks after their confrontation, Davenport no longer represented rebellion. He proved her approach worked. Deep into the night, Thorne discovered him in the practice facility, pushing through exercises, adjusted for his damaged shoulder. He'd created systems working around his weakness, rather than waiting to fully heal. "Pushing yourself late?" she questioned, entering the low lighting. "Yes, ma'am. Changing isn't a choice. Not after what I've learned." She observed silently as he worked, controlled and focused. Zero wasted movement. He brought his father to mind, but more refined, smarter, open to learning. At last, their assessment day came. The soldiers encountered a 6-hour nightmare built to crush both body and spirit. Complicated tactical challenges piled onto complete exhaustion. Sudden changes of who's in charge. Gear breaking when they desperately needed it. Every variable that could destroy a fighter's control got thrown their way. But this time they didn't collapse blindly. They adjusted. They switched leaders when one couldn't continue. They created weapons when stripped of equipment. They transformed their surroundings into an advantage rather than an enemy. Davenport's group especially impressed everyone. When his shoulder limited him during a climb, he gave control to Calloway without pause. When confusion overwhelmed Calloway, Fallon stepped up, keeping everyone united. The group that once laughed at studying now operated like a single living thing, minds keener than their bodies. At the finish, standing soaked with sweat and covered in grime, Thorne spoke to them. "Today you've shown that strength without thinking gets wasted. You adjusted under stress, led when required, followed when necessary. This understanding won't just make you better, it'll keep you breathing. Hold on to this teaching when enemies believe they can shatter you. Hold on to it when your body quits, but your brain keeps working, because that's what brings you back home." Commander Blackwood moved forward and announced the training would become standard for all SEAL preparation. They were the inaugural group to finish, the benchmark for every group coming after. Graduation arrived 6 months down the road. Thorne stood among the crowd, quiet as usual, watching each trainee accept the trident marking them as operators. Relatives cheered loudly, companions celebrated, but she stayed in the background, satisfied just seeing their success. When Davenport walked up, Blackwood's announcement rang out. "This soldier has shown tactical creativity, modesty, and leadership built through hardship." He scored top marks in Major Thorne's training and established a fresh standard for what it means to adapt. Davenport's chest filled with pride, but his gaze searched for her among everyone. When he spotted her, he offered a subtle nod of respect, recognition of a connection built not through pride but through pain and change. When the ceremony wrapped and people scattered, Thorne attempted to leave unnoticed, but the trainees had different plans. One after another, the freshly certified operators formed a line along her route. As she passed by, each delivered a sharp salute. No commands issued, no words spoken, just silent, rock-solid respect. Davenport positioned himself at the line's end, his salute precise, his voice firm. "Thank you, Major, for showing us that real strength isn't controlling others, it's changing yourself." She returned the salute with formal exactness. "Keep that teaching close. When everything else crumbles, it'll bring you home when nothing else." Later, as she departed the base carrying a single container of personal items, Blackwood stopped her with closing thoughts. The training surpassed all hopes. Fewer injuries, better mission success predictions. You've altered not just their preparation, but their entire future. She offered a small acknowledgement. Teaching them might be the most critical mission I've ever completed. She left under the fading sun, scars concealed beneath her sleeves, bearing the burden of what came before, but also the fulfillment of knowing she'd shaped a generation who'd survive what her team couldn't. And while those young operators celebrated their achievement, one reality connected them all. They'd begun the training, believing strength lived in muscles alone. They finished understanding the brain was the true weapon. If this account touched you, respect the hidden warriors who bear scars the world never sees. Leave a salute in the comments, share where you're watching from, and subscribe to Military and Veteran Stories for more hidden accounts of courage, sacrifice, and strength.